Yo, what up? Bass Boxing Basement, Triple B. Sorry I haven't done any videos. You know, there's not been much happening in boxing, to be frank. But, like, also, I don't know, my energy dropped a bit. But, yeah. Yeah, so there's not much to look forward to the weekend. So, Nathaniel Collins, I'm going to do it live. But, yeah, I wanted to watch a movie. I'm into the movie since I watched the George Foreman film about, I don't know how many years that was ago, 4 years or something, which was pretty good, you know. They got dissed by critics because probably it's too pro-Christian because, you know, we know who controls the narrative. But I went to see The Smashing Machine. You know, I thought, you know what? I remember I liked to go to the movies when I was young, have some popcorn, you know, get the Coca-Cola on, just, you know, I like it in the afternoon where it isn't too full of idiots laughing and making noise, man. You know, and it was cheaper. But, like, the Smashing Machine. So if you don't know, it's about an MMA guy, early MMA fighter called Mark Kerr, who fought in UFC and Pride. I won't go in too much to what he's done and whatever. We're just talking about the film, really, and it's got The Rock in it, Dwayne Johnson, aka the Batman. And apparently he sold his ass to get where he is, and that doesn't surprise me. I think you kind of have to be creepy, but you know, it was, you know, it was quite a disappointing film. It's kind of based on The Smashing Machine, the life and times of extreme fighter Mark Kerr, which is a documentary made in 2002, and that's pretty strong because it's real and it's gritty, and you know, you see the guy shooting up. You know, painkillers, and he has addiction to painkillers, and you know, it's real, so it's gritty. But this is a film, and they've sort of remade it. They remade the Smashing Machine documentary as a Smashing Machine, the film starring The Rock. And you know, one of the best things about it is the you know, I guess the prosthetics and the makeup, because you know, he doesn't look like the Rock. They do a good job of making him look like Mark Kerr. You know, but to be frank, that's the best piece. And that people don't come to films to see makeup and prosthetics. They come to see drama, to see entertainment. You know, and the whole movie just seemed a bit flat. Someone actually left halfway through. There wasn't a very lot of people. There's about 10 people in the cinema where I went, and one woman just left halfway through. And I kind of I got that feeling early on. Like, I bet you, because there's about 3 women on their own who were coming to watch it, which I thought was weird. Why would, you know, middle-aged women, I'm talking about, and one youngster watching The Smashing Machine, you know, a film about brutal cage fighting. It's not really a women's film, is it? You know? You know, it might be a rug muncher's film, maybe, who wishes she was a man. Or maybe they come in just because they wanted to look at the muscly men. I don't know, but one of the women, I did think early on, I thought, you know what, this is pedestrian, bro. It's not moving very fast. And there's no, I don't know, it seemed like a B movie. It just seemed like a real straight to DVD, old school B movie, you know? And it's got good reviews. And on the whole, if you look at Google and IMDb, and they're 4 out of 5 and stuff like that, and 75% here, and I'm like, nah, man. I was expecting like 30%, 2 out of 5. This is really disappointing. This is a letdown. And like I said, the most impressive thing is the fact that they made The Rock not look like The Rock. But he's massively bulked up for it. Now, Mark Kerr obviously did a lot of PEDs, and I don't think they even used to test in those days, you know. I don't know what... you know, Otto Wallin thinks about that. You know, he's probably horrified. But they didn't do any tests. But, and he's so over-roided up, The Rock, it's ridiculous. He's like in his 50s now. Yeah, and you can kind of see his body is falling a bit. But he's juiced himself up. And they don't even touch on the PD abuse of Mark Kerr, which has to be a massive part of the story because he's so juiced up. You can see. So it's a bit disappointing they don't really touch on that, you know what I mean? And probably they think, well, they don't want to touch on it because it's so obvious that the Rock and all the other WWE wrestlers are super juiced, you know? And they don't want to inject that kind of storyline in, he's ridiculously big in it, in The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, Dwayne the Wrong'un Johnson. But yeah, I mean, it just didn't really go anywhere, man. You know, the film kind of, you know, it stutters on. You know, it's not particularly well acted. Actually, The Rock's okay, except I don't know. He seems to have been injected with Botox all over his face because his expression never changes. The words that come out of his mouth are quite well acted, but the face never changes. He's got, and also all the prosthetics and the makeup and the Botox. You know, his face is just like a mask. You remember that film, The Mask, with that guy Eric Stoltz, and he's got a huge heat on him. You know, with Kerr. Yeah, that reminded me of that. You know, reminding me of that. This huge heat which just doesn't, which can't change his expression. And there's all this kind of unresolved, like, sort of storylines. It just kind of, so he has arguments with his girlfriend, you know, who turns into a selfish cow 2 days before he's got a massive fight. She starts crying about herself. And there's always, throughout the entire film, there's this, like, modern American therapy talk. Hey, you're not, whatever. You're interrupting my recovery process and all this kind of nonsense. You know, all these real Americanisms, these therapeutic Americanisms, you know. And you know, it just doesn't kind of go anywhere. You know, the so-called climax of the film is his mate, Mark Coleman, who's played by Ryan Bader, who's an ex-MMA fighter, who actually does a good job in the film. And he just kind of, so his mate wins it, and they leave out so much of Mark Kerr's career. I'm sure they could have ended it a better way. You know, in the end, he's just wandering around with a stupid look on his face with a supermarket trolley, you know, and it just, there's no drama, there's no excitement. The acting was pretty poor. Like I said, you know, people go, oh, what a, I've even seen these articles go, oh, The Rock deserves an Oscar for this. What? For his expressionless face, yeah, like Eric Stoltz, you know, and his massive heat, and they've got these. Obviously, The Rock's bald, but Mark Kerr had this kind of. They did quite a good job, but it's like they've glued some pubic hair on his head and left some bald patches out. And Mark Kerr had a receding hairline, so it fits. But I think he does quite look like Mark Kerr, but he looks like a cartoon version of Mark Kerr, you know, with his ginormous roided up body. You know, and in his weird face that doesn't make any expressions. I didn't understand what the point of the film was. You know what I mean? At the end, they say, his Mark and the girlfriend have a son and whatever, and they get back together. But I don't know, man. It seemed like flat, straight to DVD movie. You know, even the definition. I don't know if it was the cinema I was at, but even it had an 80s look to it. It looked like it'd been filmed in the 80s. You know what I'm saying? So it was, to be honest, I mean, you know, I don't know where all these good reviews and ratings come from. They've probably been bribed or they're fake or whatever, because it really wasn't very good. It wasn't very good at all. You know? And then Empire Magazine, Dwayne Johnson's about to win some reports. There's a couple of negative people on it, but on the whole, they go, it's, you know, a lot of people say Dwayne Johnson could be headed for an Oscar, says The Independent, but other people say the movies kind of, I don't know, it fails, and I agree with that, man. I agree with that. Like I said, someone left the movie, and I knew it. I predicted it when I was about 45 minutes in. I bet you some of these women leave because it's not going anywhere. The character, I didn't feel for any of the characters, you know. I didn't feel for any of the characters. None of them seem to have any depth, man. You know, the lines are cliched. It seemed to be filmed in the 80s for DVD. The Rock looked ridiculous. You know, I don't know, man. Don't pay to see it, that's for sure. There are ways to see things online. I went to see the movies because I wanted a nostalgic trip back to when I was a kid and used to watch movies. But, yeah, it was too whack. It was too whack to enjoy, really. So, go and watch The Smashing Machine, the original documentary, The Life and Times of Extreme Fighter Mark Kerr. That's worth watching. And that's real and that's gritty. You know, I don't know why they decided to remake a documentary. They even have loads of the same scenes from that documentary. Yeah, but they make it into a piece of Hollywood film, and it just doesn't work. It don't work. It don't work. It's flat. The ending's not satisfying. You don't really. There's no kind of There's no upbeat moments. You know, if you're gonna do a film about fighting, you know, if you're gonna do a film about fighting, you have to get the audience involved. You got to lift them at some point. It has to be something dramatic. There isn't. It just plods along. It plods along. Just plods along. And all you can look at is, damn, why doesn't The Rock ever pull any expressions? Well, because of his Botox and all those prosthetics, like I said. So I give it a miss, unfortunately. I give it a miss. Go and watch the original documentary. But don't bother with this one, yeah? Peace in the Middle East. And I'll get back to some boxing stuff soon. And I got some Philip Ergovich, Geiger Chad stuff planned as well. So, yeah. And I'll probably do a live tomorrow for the Nathaniel Collins fight. So, yeah, see you then, hopefully. Bye. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I forgot to mention. Yeah, well, it has got Alexander Usyk, who plays Igor Vovchanchin. Huh? Is that how you pronounce it? Vovchankin or whatever, yeah? He does a pretty good job. I mean, he doesn't say that much in it, but I quite liked, it's nice to see, a real life fighter, Usyk playing, a fighter, admittedly a stand-up MMA guy, but he does a good job. He's got some good kicks, Usyk, as well. Yeah. So he did a good job, actually, Usyk, playing Igor Vovchanchin. So, I mean, that was another thing that drew me into the film. I wanted to see Usyk in it. I mean, he doesn't have a massive role in it, but he's in it enough. And obviously he's convincing because he's a real fighter, but at one point he does a pretty flashy kick. Yeah, it was good to watch Usyk as well, actually. So, but, I mean, that's not really enough to go and spend whatever it costs to go see a movie just to watch 5 minutes of Usyk. So, anyway, yeah, peace.